At 8:46 on a warm August night in Southern California, a maintenance worker walked toward a dumpster behind an upscale apartment complex. He wasn't looking for anything unusual. Just another shift, another routine night, another trash pickup. But then, he noticed something. A suitcase. Large. Black. Expensive. And strangely, clean. It didn't belong there. For a moment, he kept walking. Then he stopped. Something about it felt wrong. The placement. The silence. The weight of it, even from a distance. And as he stepped closer, the smell hit him. Suddenly his heartbeat changed. His breathing changed. And within seconds, he was dialing 911. Because inside that suitcase was a discovery so horrifying. It would shut down an entire television show, destroy a rising reality star, and trigger an international manhunt that would leave millions asking one terrifying question. How well do we really know the people we watch on television? Days earlier, Los Angeles, California. Cameras rolled. Luxury cars lined the curb. Champagne glasses clinked. Producers shouted directions. Beautiful people smiled under expensive lighting. And standing right in the middle of it all was a man who looked like he had everything. Tall, sharp jawline, tailored suits, perfect smile, money, confidence, charm, and the kind of presence that made cameras love him. His name? Ryan Jenkins. Ryan Jenkins. To millions watching at home, Ryan looked like the perfect reality television villain. Rich, cocky, competitive, unapologetic. The kind of man audiences claimed to hate, but secretly couldn't stop watching. And that was exactly why producers loved him. He appeared on the VH1 reality dating series Megan Wants a Millionaire, a show built around wealth, luxury, competition, and the fantasy of finding love among millionaires. Ryan fit the image perfectly. Expensive watches, sports cars, designer suits, private clubs. He looked like success. He looked like power. He looked like someone who always got what he wanted. And when cameras focused on him, he knew exactly how to perform. He flirted effortlessly, smiled on command, knew when to laugh, knew when to create drama, knew how to dominate every room. To viewers, he was entertaining. To producers, he was ratings. But away from cameras, away from the lights, away from the champagne and music, there were already cracks forming. Cracks nobody on set could see. Cracks that would soon become impossible to ignore. Long before America knew his name, Ryan Jenkins grew up in Canada. Canada. He was ambitious, aggressive, competitive. The kind of man who didn't just want success. He wanted people to see it. Friends described him as charismatic, confident, driven, magnetic. But others used different words. Controlling, explosive, possessive, unpredictable. At first, those descriptions stayed buried, because charm has a way of hiding darkness. And Ryan was very good at being charming. Summer 1. Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Bright lights, loud music, luxury hotels, private parties. And inside one of those parties, Ryan met a woman who immediately stood out. Her name? Jasmine Fiore. Jasmine Fiore. She was stunning. Model. Beautiful. Confident. Independent. The kind of woman who naturally commanded attention. Long dark hair. Warm smile. Effortless energy. And unlike many people Ryan met, she wasn't impressed by money. She had her own life. Her own career. Her own ambitions. And somehow, that made Ryan want her even more. Witnesses later said the chemistry between them was instant. Electric. Intense. Dangerously fast. By the end of the night, they were inseparable. And just days later, they made a decision that shocked everyone around them. They got married. In Las Vegas. After knowing each other. For barely 2 days. No long engagement. No careful planning. No slow romance. Just intensity. Impulse. And a wedding chapel. Friends were stunned. Some laughed. Some celebrated. Others felt something was wrong. Because relationships built on speed often hide things people don't see. And this one was moving far too fast. At first, it looked perfect. Luxury hotels, private trips, expensive dinners, designer gifts, photos, smiles, champagne. Sunset selfies. To outsiders, they looked like the ultimate power couple. Reality TV star. Beautiful model. Money. Fame. Luxury. What could go wrong? Everything. Because behind those photographs, the arguments had already begun. Small at first. Possessiveness. Jealousy. Phone calls. Questions. Where are you? Who are you with? Why didn't you answer? Who texted you? What are you wearing? What time will you be home? At first, Jasmine laughed it off. Thought it was passion. Thought it was love. Thought it meant he cared. But then, the calls became constant. The texts became aggressive. And the anger became impossible to ignore. One night, inside a luxury hotel, guests reported shouting, furniture moving, a woman crying, a man yelling. Security was called. And when hotel staff arrived, Jasmine looked shaken. Ryan looked furious. But somehow, the situation calmed down. No charges. No arrests. No headlines. Just another private fight. Or so everyone thought. Because that night was only the beginning. Back in Los Angeles, Ryan continued filming. Continued smiling. Continued performing. No one on set had any idea. No one in production suspected. No one watching television could see it. Because predators often don't look like monsters. Sometimes, they wear tailored suits. Sometimes, they smile for cameras. Sometimes, they become famous. And sometimes, the world applauds them. Right before everything falls apart. August 14th. 1. Jasmine's friends started noticing something. No calls. No texts. No social media. No replies. Nothing. At first, they assumed she was traveling. Busy. Working. Sleeping. But then one full day passed. Then another. And another. Still nothing. For Jasmine, that wasn't normal. Not even close. She always answered. Always checked in. Always stayed connected. Something was wrong. And deep down, her friends knew it. Then, one friend made a call. Ryan answered. His voice was calm. Too calm. He said Jasmine was fine. Said she was busy. Said she needed space. Said she'd call later. But she never did. Because by that point, Jasmine Fiore was already dead. And Ryan Jenkins already had a plan. August 15th. Security cameras captured movement. A luxury vehicle. Late night. A man. Heavy luggage. Repeated trips. Back and forth. Back and forth. Back and forth. No smiles. No cameras. No performance. Just silence. And urgency. Investigators would later study that footage frame by frame. And what they found would become one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in the entire case. Because what Ryan was moving wasn't luggage. And by the time police understood that, he was already gone. Back at that dumpster, the maintenance worker stood frozen. Police sirens grew louder. Officers arrived. Crime scene tape went up. Floodlights lit the night. Detectives approached carefully. Nobody said a word. And when forensic teams finally opened that suitcase, even veteran investigators looked away. Because inside was Jasmine Fiore. And whoever had done this had gone to terrifying lengths to make sure nobody would identify her. But one tiny detail, one detail the killer didn't think about, would expose everything. And as detectives began tracing Jasmine's final hours, one name kept coming up. A man America already knew. A man millions had watched on television. A man who was now nowhere to be found. Ryan Jenkins had disappeared. And what police would discover next would transform a murder investigation into an international manhunt. By sunrise, the entire crime scene had transformed. Floodlights still cut through the early California morning. Detectives moved carefully. Forensic photographers documented every angle. Evidence markers covered the ground. And sitting just a few feet away from that black suitcase, veteran investigators stood in complete silence. Because what they had just seen wasn't ordinary. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't random. It was organized, calculated, personal. And whoever had done this had taken time. A lot of time. That alone told investigators something chilling. This wasn't the work of a stranger. This was someone who knew Jasmine Fiore. Jasmine Fiore. Someone who had been close enough to gain her trust. Close enough to get her alone. Close enough to make sure she never walked away. And within hours, one name had moved straight to the top of their list. Ryan Jenkins. Ryan Jenkins. Her husband. Reality television contestant. Millionaire. Camera favorite. And now, the man detectives desperately needed to find. By 8:30 that morning, investigators were already inside Jasmine's apartment. No signs of forced entry. No shattered windows. No broken locks. No evidence of a random attack. But there were signs of struggle. Subtle signs. A chair knocked slightly out of place. A glass on the floor. A lamp tilted. A cushion displaced. Small details. Details most people would miss. But detectives didn't. Because scenes like this tell stories. And this story was getting darker by the minute. Then, a forensic technician called everyone over. Something had been found. A fingerprint. Fresh. Clean. And exactly where investigators feared it would be. Not on the front door. Not on the kitchen. Not on a random surface. But near the bedroom. And as detectives looked at each other, nobody needed to say it. They all knew whose print they expected. Meanwhile, Ryan's phone was off. His home empty. His car gone. And every minute that passed made detectives more nervous. Because innocent people don't usually disappear. Not when their wife has just been found murdered. Not when police are looking for answers. Not when the entire city is about to know their name. By noon, law enforcement issued an alert. Ryan Jenkins was now officially wanted for questioning. And the media was about to explode. News vans began arriving. Satellite trucks. Reporters. Cameras. Microphones. Breaking headlines. And within hours, the story hit national television. Reality TV contestant wanted in murder investigation. Phones rang non-stop. Producers panicked. Executives stopped meetings. Publicists stopped answering calls. Because suddenly, what had once been great television was becoming a public nightmare. At VH1 headquarters, executives sat in emergency meetings. The show, Megan Wants a Millionaire, was still airing. Millions were watching. Advertisements were running. Promotions were scheduled. But now, one of their contestants was the prime suspect in a brutal homicide. And nobody knew what to do. Do they keep airing episodes? Do they cancel the show? Do they say nothing? Or do they admit that a man America had been laughing with may actually be a killer? The answer would come soon. But first, police had to find Ryan. And that was becoming harder by the hour. Detectives pulled security footage. Hotels, gas stations, parking garages, traffic cameras, ATMs, anywhere Ryan might appear. And finally, a break, a surveillance camera. Late night, Orange County, a silver vehicle, Ryan's vehicle, timestamp, 2:17 a.m. And Ryan didn't look like the confident millionaire from television. He looked different, tense, sweating, focused, nervous. He stepped out of the car, looked around, opened the trunk, and began moving something heavy, something bulky, something investigators would later watch, over and over again, frame by frame by frame. And every time they watched it, the same realization hit harder. Ryan wasn't panicking. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't confused. He looked prepared, as if he'd rehearsed it, as if he'd already accepted what he'd done. And that scared detectives more than anything. Then another call came in. From Nevada. Nevada. A border crossing. Vehicle sighting. Ryan Jenkins. Heading north. And suddenly, this wasn't just a murder case anymore. It was a manhunt. By evening, federal agencies were involved. State police. Border patrol. Canadian authorities. Everyone wanted the same man. And Ryan kept moving. Nevada. Utah. Montana. Utah, Montana. Every toll booth. Every gas station. Every highway camera. He kept slipping through. Sometimes minutes ahead. Sometimes seconds. And investigators began asking themselves something unsettling. Was he just running? Or had he planned this escape before Jasmine was even dead? Back in California, Jasmine's family arrived. And the atmosphere changed instantly. No cameras. No headlines. No courtroom drama. Just grief. Raw. Silent. Unimaginable grief. Her mother couldn't speak. Her father barely stood. Friends cried in hallways. And detectives, who had seen tragedy their entire careers, struggled to make eye contact. Because now, this wasn't evidence. This wasn't paperwork. This wasn't headlines. This was someone's daughter. Someone's best friend. Someone who trusted the wrong person. And now, they owed her justice. Then, another break. Ryan's financial records. Credit card activity. One purchase. Small. Almost meaningless. A roadside motel. British Columbia. British Columbia. Canada. He'd crossed the border. And somehow, he'd done it before authorities locked it down. Now the hunt had gone international. And Canadian police moved fast. Hotels. Motels. Rental cabins. Border towns. Everywhere. And somewhere, Ryan was watching. Watching the headlines. Watching his face on television. Watching the entire world realize who he really was. Back in America, VH1 made its decision. Executives pulled the plug. Immediately. No more episodes. No reruns. No promotions. No explanations. Just silence. A reality television show. Destroyed overnight. Because one contestant had turned fame into horror. And viewers everywhere began asking, what else didn't they know? What else had cameras missed? And how close had America come to celebrating a murderer? 3 days later, British Columbia, a small town, quiet, remote, a motel clock, night shift, ordinary evening. Then a man checked in. Cash payment, minimal luggage, avoided eye contact, looked exhausted, shaky, sleep deprived. And the clock recognized him immediately, not from television, from the news. Ryan Jenkins, the most wanted man in North America. But instead of confronting him, the clock waited, stayed calm, made the call, and within minutes, police were on their way. But something strange happened. Ryan stopped moving. No credit cards, no gas, no food, no activity, nothing. It was as if he knew, as if he'd finally realized there was nowhere left to run. And as officers drove toward that motel, no sirens, no lights, no noise, just darkness and tension, because nobody knew what kind of man they were about to meet. The charming millionaire, the reality TV star, or the killer hiding underneath. 11:42 p.m. Police surrounded the building. Perimeter secured. Windows watched. Doors covered. Weapons ready. Room number confirmed. Every officer silent. One hand on the radio. One hand on the weapon. And then, they approached. Step. By step. By step. Knuckles touched the motel door. Once. Twice. Then louder. Police. No answer. Another knock. Ryan opened the door. Still nothing. And suddenly, one detective looked at another. Because something felt wrong. Too quiet. Far too quiet. And when officers finally got permission to force entry, nobody inside that hallway was prepared for what they were about to see. Because behind that motel room door, Ryan Jenkins had made one final decision. One final move. One final escape. And what police discovered inside would shock even the investigators who thought they'd seen everything. The hallway was completely silent. No television. No footsteps. No movement. Just the low static from police radios. And the sound of officers breathing through tension. Room 204. A cheap motel. Remote. Quiet. Hidden in the forests of British Columbia. And behind that door was the most wanted man in North America. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. One officer stepped forward. Hand on the frame. Another stood behind him. Weapon ready. A third officer quietly counted down. 3, 2, 1. The door exploded inward. And within seconds, every officer inside that hallway froze. Because Ryan Jenkins, wasn't running anymore. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't waiting to negotiate. And he wasn't planning another escape. Because inside that motel room, Ryan Jenkins was dead. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Veteran officers, who had worked homicide for decades, stood frozen. Because the man who had triggered an international manhunt, the man whose face dominated every news station, the man millions had watched on television, had just written his own ending. The room itself looked almost untouched. Curtains closed, television off, suitcase near the wall, a half-finished bottle of water, some receipts, a few scattered papers, and in the middle of it all, Ryan Jenkins, still, silent, gone. And suddenly, everything changed. Because now, the only person who truly knew what happened inside that apartment would never speak again. No interrogation, no confession, no courtroom testimony, no cross-examination, no explanation, nothing. And for investigators, that was devastating, because for days, they had been building toward that moment. The arrest, the questioning, the timeline, the motive, the confrontation. And now, that opportunity was gone forever. But even though Ryan Jenkins was dead, the investigation was far from over. Because now, detectives had a different mission. Not to catch a killer, but to prove exactly what happened and why. Back in California, forensic teams continued working around the clock. Jasmine's apartment, Ryan's vehicle, Ryan's financial records, phone records, airline bookings, hotel surveillance, text messages, everything, every detail, every movement, every second. Because even though Ryan was gone, Jasmine still deserved answers. And slowly, piece by piece, the timeline began to come together. August 13, 2009. Jasmine Fiore was alive. Friends had spoken to her. Text messages had been exchanged. Plans had been discussed. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. No signs that within hours, her life would end. But investigators soon discovered that Jasmine and Ryan had been arguing. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. And according to friends, the relationship had become volatile, explosive, unpredictable, and frightening. At first, Jasmine had hidden it. Like many people do, she downplayed the arguments, laughed them off, made excuses, said Ryan was intense, said he was protective, said he just cared too much. But behind closed doors, friends now realized it had become something darker, something dangerous. Investigators pulled phone records, and what they found was disturbing. Dozens of calls, repeated texts, missed calls, late-night messages, voicemails, confrontations, questions, jealousy, possession, control. And one thing became painfully clear. Ryan Jenkins was obsessed. And as detectives dug deeper, they uncovered something else. Something even more troubling. Ryan's past. Because long before reality television, long before fame, long before Jasmine, there were already warning signs. Past relationships, past incidents, past accusations, past explosive behavior. People who had once known him began coming forward. Ex-girlfriends, friends, business associates, former acquaintances, and many of them described the same man. Charming in public, dangerous in private, magnetic at first, controlling later. The kind of man who could make you feel special, right before making you feel trapped. And suddenly, detectives began asking a painful question. Could this have been prevented? Because if producers, background investigators, casting teams, or network executives had looked deeper, would Ryan Jenkins ever have made it onto national television? Would Jasmine have ever met him? Would any of this have happened? Those questions would haunt the entertainment industry for years. Because once the public learned the full story, the outrage exploded. Television stations replayed his audition clips, his interviews, his luxury lifestyle, his confident smiles. And suddenly, those same clips felt different. The smiles looked colder. The confidence looked darker. The charm felt calculated. And millions of viewers began asking themselves, how did we miss it? Meanwhile, forensic teams finally confirmed Ryan's vehicle had become one of the most important pieces of evidence in the entire case. Because inside, investigators found traces, hair, fibers, biological evidence, cleaning products, signs of attempted removal. And one terrifying truth became undeniable. Ryan hadn't panicked. He had cleaned. He had planned. He had tried to erase her. And then, detectives discovered security footage, parking structures, apartment complexes, late-night movements, heavy luggage, repeated trips, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and frame by frame. The footage painted a chilling picture. Not chaos, not confusion, not emotion, but method, control, calculation. And as investigators reviewed those videos, one detective reportedly said something that would later become famous. He didn't look like a man who lost control. He looked like a man finishing a plan. That statement hit the public hard, because by now, the narrative had changed completely. This wasn't a jealous argument gone wrong. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't sudden rage. This looked premeditated. And while investigators worked, Jasmine's family prepared for the hardest moment of all. The funeral. No cameras. No flashing lights. No reporters. Just grief. Raw, unfiltered grief. Friends. Family. Flowers. Tears. Silence. And a young woman, who should have had decades left to live. She was beautiful, ambitious, independent, and according to everyone who knew her, she lit up every room she entered. And now, that light was gone. Her family stood together, broken, numb, trying to understand how a relationship that lasted only weeks had ended in such unimaginable violence, trying to understand how fame could hide darkness so effectively, trying to understand why. But some questions never get answers, because Ryan Jenkins had taken those answers with him. And in the years that followed, the case continued making headlines. True crime documentaries, podcasts, television specials, court records, media investigations. And every time people revisited the story, they asked the same question. How did nobody see it sooner? And perhaps, the most haunting part of this case wasn't just the murder. It wasn't the manhunt. It wasn't the motel. It wasn't the headlines. It wasn't even the reality television scandal. It was the mask. Because Ryan Jenkins looked like success, looked like charm, looked like money, looked like confidence, looked like someone the world admired, someone producers trusted, someone viewers rooted for, someone women wanted, someone men wanted to be. And yet, behind that smile was something far darker. And maybe that's what makes this case so unforgettable. Because monsters don't always hide in darkness. Sometimes, they stand under studio lights. Sometimes, they wear tailored suits. Sometimes, they smile for cameras. Sometimes, they become famous. And sometimes, the world applauds them, without ever realizing what they are capable of. After Jasmine's death, VH1 permanently cancelled Megan Wants a Millionaire. Episodes were pulled. Schedules were changed. Promotions disappeared. As if the network wanted the entire thing to vanish. But stories like this never vanish. Not really. Because somewhere, there's always a clip, a photo, a headline, a documentary, a memory. And every time someone sees Ryan Jenkins smiling on television, they know something viewers back then didn't. They know that just days later, the cameras would stop rolling, the lights would go out, a young woman would lose her life, and a reality star would become one of the most infamous killers ever connected to television. Jasmine Fiore never got to tell her story, but the evidence did. The timeline did. The surveillance did. The forensic reports did. And the truth, no matter how hard someone tries to bury it, always finds a way to come back. Because fame can hide a lot of things, but it can never hide the truth forever.